True. Man, if there's one thing I can't stand, it's when Jasper Crawford. Oh wait, never mind. That's sorry.
Different show. Different show.
If
I love the idea.
had a nickel for every time that guy.
I love the idea that he's also like he was waiting on with bated breath to tune into this. Like he came in right in just as you were saying that, and he's sitting there
He's
like
Walters.
His arch rival Jeremy Cobb. He has to keep an eye on him.
Well, I will tell you my my Jeremy Crawford story though. It is a harmless one. Is way back after the Stream of Many Eyes. So in 2018, we all went out for drinks afterwards. I think you were there, Lindsay. And one of the things I asked him is I was like, why are there half elves and half orcs, but not half other creatures? Why aren't there like half dwarves? Why aren't there this? And of course, he gives me an encyclopedic and canonically accurate answer as to why orcs can do it and elves can do it. And orcs kind of used to be this infectious disease, basically. And I was like, yeah, none of that makes sense. And I'm going to make a half-halfling, and I'm going to call it a quarterling. And he was like, you can, but you shouldn't. In Alcuin, in our show, our half-halfling, half-celestial Crawford, that's why the baby was named Crawford. I named it after him.
Yeah.
I was like,
It makes sense now.
I'm going to do a half-halfling, and I'm going to call it a quarterling, and I'm going to name it after you, Jeremy Crawford. So that's where that baby came from.
Secured his legacy. That was what he needed.
There was.
his greatest legacy.
That's he's done a couple things, but
That was only 25% of his legacy.
It's the topper on the wedding cake. It's the topper on the wedding cake. But where do your eyes go when you look at the wedding cake?
Yep.
For those of you who've already joined us, we're just sort of chilling here, giving people a chance to come and tune in, and then we'll kick it off right at the top of the hour. So you can probably see us. I'm pretty sure hear us. And if you can't see us yet, it's that is a shame because there's a beautiful assemblage of humanity on the screen right now. But
And half humanity.
Hey,
I'm just saying. You know, I mean, you being an actual half elf, a fey creature of some sort would make a lot more sense, Alcuin.
I'm a quarter elf, but thank you. I'm only an elf. Only my grandmother was an elf.
I'm just saying a lot more things would start to add up here if if you've low key been holding out on us all this time.
I've been very upfront about it.
Yeah,
actually, that is true.
I would say I immediately clocked out the second day.
It's one of the first things that you said when we met.
I'm just well, apparently he's a different elf based on his social media standing, but I'm like, if I've ever met an actual Eladrin, it's you. I'm just saying, that's all.
You're right. I'm a synthwave Eladrin.
That's there you go. That's a new subclass, Chris Lindsay. That one's on the house. Is synthwave Eladrin.
I'm from the place in Jeremy's background.
Yeah, exactly.
For our production overlords who are lurking in the back, right at the top of the hour, we can kick it off. It's always a pet peeve of mine. I realize it takes time for people to show up, but when you delay, you punish the people who are on time. So, like, yeah.
Do that.
Now, I know for our UK retinue here, I know Jeremy and Jasper, you were both on your North American World Tour, which I'm pretty sure, Jeremy, you're still on this side of the pond. But Jasper, are you back over in England or are you still over here?
I am back over in rainy England, yes.
It's actually raining here today, so I guess it's not so different. It's like, look at that. We're building bridges.
I live in Seattle area. It's always raining.
It's true. We have your weather. But hey, look at that. It's the top of the hour. So all right, y'all, let's get to getting. and welcome to our first of perhaps many Ask Me Anything AMA sessions for D&D in a Castle. Hooray! Yes! I am your host and humble Dungeon Master, B. Dave Walters, and I want you to know, while we were running that beautiful video just now, this little window comes up that says, "You're in the back room, only the host can see you." So I did the forbidden dance for the good people that are running this, little something extra for the outtakes. So we are here to talk about D&D in a Castle, what it is, who we are, why we've participated in it, why we think you should participate in it, and just sort of talk a little bit and ask each other questions. You also can submit your questions. I think now completely ignore me if they've already given you question instructions, but otherwise write the word question in all caps in front of it. So the people that are pulling the questions, it'll make their life easier. They'll funnel them over to us. We will ask the questions live as we go. So, but first, I'm gonna triple up on this here. I would like our humble dungeon masters here to tell me two things: who you are, where people might know you from, and what is D&D in a Castle. What is D&D in a Castle? Okay, and I'm going to go in the order that you all are on my screen. So we are going to be starting with Mr. Jeremy Cobb.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jeremy Cobb. I am 1/3 of the podcast Three Black Halflings, also the resident GM for Three Black Halflings. And what is D&D in a Castle? D&D in a Castle is an opportunity to travel to a real medieval castle and get to play with and rub shoulders with some of the best dungeon masters in the world. It is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity unless you happen to be friends with one of the dungeon masters, but most people aren't, and so for you, it is most likely a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and it is an absolute blast.
Excellent. Mr. Jasper Cartwright.
Hello, everyone. I am Jasper Cartwright. I am another third of the Three Black Halflings. I am currently kicking off 2 new podcasts as well this year. So if you're into motion capture, I've got a performance capture podcast coming out and a games and feelings. I'm joining that on a semi-permanent basis, which is super exciting. And what would I say? What would I say? D&D the Castle is? I would say that it is a once-in-a-lifetime experience, an all-encompassing experience of all the D&D magic you could possibly imagine over 3 days. It's wonderful.
Excellent. Friend to all mankind and ageless beauty, Chris Lindsay.
I don't know about ageless, but I am a product manager for Dungeons and Dragons at Wizards of the Coast and a dungeon master of many decades. Hence the ageless part, I suppose. And for me, D&D in a Castle is the best, basically, summer camp, spring camp, winter camp, fall camp. You pick your time of year camp that I can go to for a vacation and hang out with people who love all the things I love.
Excellent. Travis and Caitlin.
Hello, I'm Travis Vengroff.
And I'm Caitlin Stats, and we are the Fool and Scholar of Fool and Scholar Productions, and we create
audio horror like Dark Dice, a D&D podcast that's rather spooky and fun. And also,
I would say that we consider D&D in a Castle to be an escape. You get to escape reality and fully immerse yourself in the fantasy world that you've grown to love over the years and try a completely new story as part of an absolute just dream, an escape from reality. That's what I think it feels like.
I concur.
I appreciate that you two just coordinated that right in front of us without saying anything. I watched you do that at the castle more than once. You just look at each other and you just knew the thing. That's very impressive. Excellent. Guy.
Hello, I'm Guy from How to Be a Great GM on YouTube, and I've been running games for very many years. And I think that D&D in a Castle for me is really just it's permission to play Dungeons and Dragons for 24 hours nonstop and just have fun doing that. And I don't think anyone actually plays for 24 hours. I think they usually go 25, 26, 27. I'm not looking at some of the DMs here where it was like 30, where sleep was something that happened at breakfast time, really. So it's just great.
Yes, that is true. We're not trying to out Jeremy Cobb so much as stare intently at Jeremy Cobb. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Alcuin Gersh.
Hi, I'm Alcuin Gersh. I'm a professional Dungeon Master and Twitch streamer. You might have seen me on some shows, like some of B-Dave's shows. Let's see. D&D in a Castle, to me, I don't know if Dave and I were the ones who came up with this at one of the first ones that we did. I think it was in like 2019, but we called it like summer camp for like D&D nerds. And it definitely feels like that. The other thing I really think about too, when I think about D&D in a Castle, is a lot of the stuff that comes up about it is like play with world-class DMs. And while I think that's true, the big thing that really stands out to me is the fact that you're playing with world-class players. A lot of the other players who are coming to this are some of the most deeply invested people I've seen in the hobby or lifestyle, whatever you want to call it. And those are, I think, a big part of the memories that people are going to have when they come back from the castle is actually the other people they played with. I mean, some people come with their own groups, so it's kind of a vacation for their DM to actually get a chance to play. But a lot of the people that meet there who didn't know each other before, I know they stay in contact. I know they keep playing together. So yeah, that's what I'd see it as. It's kind of like after summer camp, yeah, sure, you remember some of the counselors and it's great, but it's really the other kids that you met at D&D Nerd Summer Camp that are really you're gonna carry with you forever.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously I agree with everything that everybody here said. And just the immersive aspect of it. I mean, it's something I heard years ago is the mark of a good idea is when you hear it, if you say to yourself, why didn't I think of that? That's when you know something was a good idea. And the first time I heard D&D in a Castle, I was like, of course, it's D&D in a castle. It's immersive, it's experiential. I would say it's not necessarily once in a lifetime because we got people that have come multiple times. Some of them go multiple times in a row. But if you can put it on your bucket list as something to make happen, you absolutely should. Now, full disclosure, I got a little list of questions here, but we're already getting a ton of questions coming in from you all. So this one, I will actually answer this first one. And this is from Margaret Parson. Hey, Margaret. Hey, hope you're all well. From someone budgeting for a future visit to the castle, what are the character creation rules for the adventure? I'm 99% sure they're different for everybody. I know some of my fellow creators worked with their tables months in advance. I myself gave very minimal guidelines. I was like, level 20, do whatever you want. I was like, try to break the game, do your worst. And that was literally all they got from me. And I think I was like 3 magic items. So it varies wildly there. The second question I will put out to whoever wants to take this from Mandy Croy. Can you be novice players or should you wait until you're more of a seasoned player for this opportunity? That looks like Chris Lindsay's want to jump on that one.
The first time I dungeon mastered at D&D in a Castle, one of my players sat down to play Dungeons and Dragons for the very first time at D&D in a Castle. And they had an absolutely fantastic experience.
Yep. I completely agree with that. I would say, if anything, if you are very new, maybe let your DM know so that they might handhold a little more, explain some things to you more. But you shouldn't be threatened by that. Does anybody want to add anything to that? I know Chris pretty much nailed it. Yes, Jasper.
Yeah, I was just going to say that one of my favorite things generally about the castle is getting to meet all these new players and like fresh players, like new players who've never played the game before, come up with the best and most unique ideas. Like, I love having new players at a table because they say stuff and the whole table goes, you want to do what with that spell? And it's amazing. Like, it's an incredible moment. And everyone's like, oh, that would totally work. Okay, let's do it. And it's a really exciting moment. So please, if you're new, come, because it's like, you're some of my favorite players to play with. So yeah, I would definitely encourage new people for sure.
Absolutely. Alcuin, I saw you were reaching there.
Yeah, I think that the other players too are very cognizant of that. I mean, I think there are very seasoned players who do get a lot out of the fact that, you know, they're able to play at a very kind of high level. But, you know, like I was saying before, I think that the other players are very supportive of that too. So if you are a new player or anywhere where you are on your spectrum of experience, I think that people are going to help you, you know, and there's a real community feeling about it. And I think that also applies to people with different levels of socialization or shyness, or, you know, if you're somewhere in a different place on the spicy neurodiversity spectrum, everybody is very helpful and supportive about that stuff. So I would not be warned off if you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to play this game in a, you know, a more public forum or around people I don't know, but like, because everybody's very supportive about it, regardless of your level of experience. Yeah.
We have a bunch of questions coming in. This is beautiful. Thank you. Please keep them coming, because if you ask more than we can get to, we'll lightning round at the end of it and just kind of go through them here. I'm going to put this one out to everybody, but I would ask to start with Guy, but I put this to the community. What is your favorite part about DMing D&D in a castle?
Oh my goodness, that's an impossible question to answer.
I'm going to give you 7 seconds to stall. That's from Elizabeth Johnson Brizolara. Apologies if I said your beautiful name wrong. All right, now you got to jump on that grenade.
Okay, so here is the greatest thing about playing D&D in a castle. There are so many different aspects that are awesome. For me, the biggest thing, it's already been mentioned, but I cannot re-emphasize this enough, is that you have this dedicated time to play the game. And in between that, you have meals where you are still with your group and you're chatting and you're conversing. And my group were torn between wanting to hang out in between these sessions with me, their DM, and also not wanting to have me there so they could plot and plan and connive, and decided in the end, you know what, they should just, we were just one big group. So the best part is this sense of everybody's there, everyone's there to have fun, and I think something that's important to point out, and this kind of links back to the previous question as well about new players, is that each of the GMs does have a little write-up on their profile page of the type of game they run. So you can see if you are more into the rules kind of stuff or the tactical stuff, or the more storytelling kind of stuff. So it's just, yeah, that sense of coming togetherness is just amazing.
Excellent. Yes, Travis.
Okay, so like the hardest part of D&D, and everyone agrees with this, is setting up a schedule and getting people to show up at the same time. And you've got like 24 plus hours to tell a story and like really get into a full campaign, and that's amazing. Like, I can't tell you how many campaigns have finished. It's fewer than like the fingers I have in my hand, but that D&D in a Castle adventure was definitely one of them, and I'm really proud of that. It was so much fun. So
getting to set aside time in life is generally very difficult. So having the opportunity, especially if you are coming to play for your first time, having the opportunity to fully immerse yourself and not have to worry about setting up the times to do it is an amazing opportunity to really get yourself into the game. And I also think that we came away having met amazing people at our table who we now talk to on a regular basis because they share the same passions that we share. So not only are you sitting down with fellow players, but you're sitting down with people who are generally on the same kind of, for us, the same nerd level of, okay, yes, this is what we want to talk about. This is what we want to be doing. And for us, that was absolutely the best part.
Excellent. Mr. Cobb.
So, for me, my favorite part, I think I would have to echo what Guy said, which is that the fact that you have a group of people who are all like bought in, like literally very emotionally and psychologically just committed from the get-go. Like as soon as you start, you can feel the energy in the room where everybody's like, oh, here it is. And it's so exciting even in between sessions, as Guy said. And like the emotional moments that you get to, you wouldn't think that in just 24 hours you would have folks crying, but I remember one of my campaigns, day 2, folks were role playing so hard they made themselves cry. It wasn't even anything I did. I was just sitting there watching while people were like, my character is discovering things about themselves after the adventure we just went on, and it's like we're like halfway done. So it's so rare that you get that level of emotional commitment, and it's just a wonderful time.
I will say, it sounds weird when I say it, but I have a reason. I gauge my success as a dungeon master by how quickly I can make someone cry, because it can be happy tears. It can be happy tears. It's because if a person is crying, they are that feeling and that in the moment. Like it is occurring to them in so powerfully that I'm like, fantastic. You're absolutely right. This one, I kind of put it out for whoever wants to answer it. How is D&D in a castle different from other events? I mean, I know we all do a bunch of cons and have been all over. How is this different? For whoever wants to say. Guy.
One of my favorite things is talking about other conventions, putting those aside, D&D in a castle, you get this amazingly majestic room, and it doesn't matter which room you get allocated because there's so many different there's DMing rooms all over the castle, and every room has 400 years worth of history built into it. There's nothing plastic, there's nothing being fabricated. These rooms have had 400 years of English history, of knights, of cavaliers, of all kinds of things going on, and it creates an environment unlike anything else really that you can have. You're not sitting in a hotel conference room or somewhere that is not almost purpose built for this thing. Because when you're sitting there and you look up at the ceiling, and there's certain rooms, there's one room that I particularly love. You look up at the ceiling and there are these ancient carvings glaring down at you, which Jeremy Crawford had attack the players, by the way, which was really cool. And then you look out over the rolling fields towards battlefields in Scotland where there were terrifying things waiting to invade. It doesn't get better than that. And I think that's one of the big things that it adds.
Also, the castle's super haunted. Lily's in there, and like stuff has happened. So there's that. There's actual ghosts. Yeah. Anyone else want to add to that? How it's different? 3, 2, 1. You nailed it, guy. It was too beautiful. Perfect. You guys are asking a lot of questions. This is fantastic. I'm telling you, do keep them coming, because if worst case, we'll lightning round at the end. This one is from Krista Bratton. How do the one-shots work? Which I will answer, because I'm going to answer what I think you're asking me, and then I'm going to answer what you actually wrote. They're campaigns. They're 3 days. So it is a beginning, middle, and end of one long game that stretches over the 3 days. There are intermittent one-shots where one of the DMs, it might be one of us or someone who is there to do just that, will run a specific session at a specific time. But if so, it is clearly advertised as such. So it's kind of a either or there. All right. Dan Greenfield. Oh, this is a tough one. Again, for whoever wants to jump on it. What's one of the most memorable moments from a session in the castle?
I got one. I was just thinking about it. The game that I was talking about. On day 3, one of the characters had in their backstory that they had this book that had like absorbed the soul of their mentor, and it was also basically their warlock patron. This book of secrets that are so far beyond any knowledge that any mortal can have, and they were in like this final battle where things were looking incredibly dire. Like half the party was down, and the rest of them had one foot on the grave, the other on a banana peel, and they proceeded to, basically knowing that this could mean the end of their character, read from the book deeply to gain enough of the knowledge to defeat the menace that faced them. Unfortunately, they did fail the Constitution saving throw, and their character was absorbed into the book. But as part of that, they saved the rest of the party. And it was like, we were playing, it was like past midnight on the final day. So everybody's like, they're like gripping onto their chairs, like, we can get through it, come on. And like, people are like looking through all of their characters' pages to be like, what can I do to try and stop this? And then it's like this moment of like, oh, they sacrificed themselves, and everybody's there like spellbound. And the whole like epilogue of that campaign was just such an emotional time for everybody. It was a wonderful, wonderful classic D&D moment for sure.
Excellent. Anybody else have a moment they'd like to share? Yes, Guy.
So something that has consistently blown away all of the players and myself are the guest NPCs that run around, which are these professional performers that the castle provides. And then we as DMs sometimes get to brief to give them sort of bits and pieces of information. And there was one performer who I had given her the instruction to enter the room that I was DMing in a dramatic way because her character was being chased by just a whole pack of 1T who were invading her city. And this I had all done via WhatsApp to let my players didn't know what was going to happen. And I sent on WhatsApp, come in, you enter. And I said, and you see a figure running towards you. She barrels through a door. And as I said that, the NPC burst in through the door, but she did it so dramatically that several of the players leapt to their feet wondering what on earth had just happened and was she okay, and they rushed over to her and she's like, I'm absolutely, I'm as a player, as the character, I'm distraught and I'm dying, but as the human I'm fine. But the NPCs were just marvelous, and just brought so much life to it. Just spectacular, absolutely spectacular.
Awesome. Yes, Chris.
So I had a moment in the game where, because we personalize so much for our players as we work out their characters ahead of time, I had a warlock in the game with a patron with a serious connection and a goal to convert as many party members over to her infernal patronage as she could possibly manage, which she quietly and subtly worked on throughout the game. At a moment in the game when the party were in the middle of a heist on a mind flare colony, which already was a very tense situation, one party member had the mind flare's tentacles wrapped around their head. The mind flare had made the hit, and it was going to suck her brains out. And we froze time at that moment, and I pulled her aside, and the infernal patron made his pitch at that point to her character, and she totally bought in, committing herself and her dead brother's souls. She didn't realize in exchange for 2 souls of the family member of the warlock. And you walk around the table and you whisper into the warlock's ear and you tell them, you get to pick 2 to come back. And on one side of the table, I have a player who has a smile that looks like she just ate the canary. And on the other side, I have a table with their head in their hands going, I should not have just done that. And the tension at the table was palpable at that moment. But the mind flare's head exploded, and for the moment, she was safe.
Not only, I love that story so much. When you told it to me, I've actually done that. The next time I had somebody that was about to die, I was like, time stop. Asmodeus is like, like, are you sure you want to die? What if you could live?
It really is an evil DM trick. Yeah.
That was on the house. There you go. And that is an aspect of this that I don't think any of us mentioned is you're having these experiences. You're also getting to see and learn how we all do what it is that we do, that you then can take back and apply there. We have a comment that came in right here from Diomedes Industries. How many bits do I have to pay to ensure that all the DMs kill off every one of Travis's characters? So, like, everything has a price, Travis. I'm here to tell you. Everything has a price.
This can be done.
But just your characters. Mine
Just
to
mine.
live.
Right, exactly.
So I did have a moment. There's a 2-step part to this. The first step is Caitlin isn't really seen as the voice. She writes a lot of the things that we make into adventures, and she writes the stories that we make that are creepy. And there was a moment at the table where she got to be an NPC, and all of a sudden, everyone's like, "Oh, she's the creepy one." And then we lead on to my favorite part is we're talking, and the party goes, "Okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna split up the party." So then Caitlin and I locked eyes. Okay, you take those two. And then we split up the party. It was very unexpected and very fun. And when they got together, they didn't have all the information because they couldn't pay attention to the other side. It was very fun.
A benefit of co-DMing.
Yes.
That is excellent. I know we could talk the rest of the day just here on memories, but I want to make sure we get through all these questions here. Two of them, well, one I'm going to answer, and then I'll put the other one out here. Are all the games 5e or other versions of the RPG played? For the most part, they're mostly 5e. I know there was definitely one-shots and whatnot that were done with some other versions, but the same thing. It should be clearly labeled when you read the DM outline of it in the sequence of events. That was from Robert Schmidt. Eric Weingold, will you ever run classes on how to DM? While we have excellent tutorial content from a number of people here, I myself have as well. I won't super plug it, but it's pinned at the top of my Twitter at @BDaveWalters. Anybody else? I know how to, Guy, you do great GM. Just raise your hand if you put out GM tip content. Yeah, there you go. Jasper does too. So there you go. Jeremy does. So
Also, hello to Eric. I've played with Eric a few times, including at D&D in a castle. So hey,
Yeah, I've had Eric as a player as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Shout outs to the homie. Margaret Parson, acts of God or whatever aside, how likely is it that this adventure continues next year and beyond? Some people like mine, their finances are a bit tight, but they still might want to save up for it. Have any of you done events that went into perpetuity, or were your things fairly self-contained?
I think is the question that we're running a long-term campaign over multiple events at the castle, or is it that the castle is going to continue to run events?
Yeah, I think it was the second one. Was the intent of the question?
Maybe. Well, but I would say again, acts of God aside, yeah, D&D in a castle is going to continue, God willing, as long as Cam and Tara want to keep doing it. But yes,
I do have a story related to the first part of that question, though, which is kind of relevant. If there are some DMs who've had the same groups come back year over year and have continued their campaigns, so I know that's a thing that can happen. If you are committed to coming back, and there are enough people who are the same in the group to make that a good use of the time, I know that happens. My players from round 7 are coming over to my house tonight to play, and we've been playing for about the last month since they got back, because they're locals. They live close enough they wanted to continue their campaign from October. So I've been doing that. So not something not usually a set of circumstances that are going to happen for most people, but yeah, and that's the other thing too, is you could always take your character's story from the game that you play and bring it back to your own group, work with your own DM, or if you run a group of your own, you can use that as a building block for something else. There's no reason why this thing can't spin off into other things if that's what you want to do, and the circumstances allow.
Yes, Jeremy.
I was going to add on to that. Some of us run private games. Like if you wanted to hire us to run. So if you and your group were like, hey, we want to keep this campaign going, and you all got together, a lot of us you could just hire to help to run the game for you. In many cases, probably remotely, but on an ongoing basis.
I reiterate, everything has its price. Yeah. Travis?
We while we are not really planning on continuing campaigns because we've got a different group, we oftentimes playtest modules that we're making that we release later, and some of the people created by our players last time have made it in as NPCs. So that's been quite fun.
Entire areas that we formed to fit these players we were playing with at D&D in a castle. Sorry, these players that we were playing with at D&D in a castle. We actually so much enjoyed what their character and the storyline around their character brought to our creation that we added in these new sections and these new people, because it's just amazing to get that input and that imagination from outside.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it lives on.
I don't want to bust anybody out, but I know for certain there was content that got published was play tested at every round of D&D in a castle I've been at. Yeah, that definitely happens. From Brian D. Harrison, do you have any table crossovers planned? Is that something that evolves or happens spontaneously? I guess, are you in the same room or are they spread out in separate rooms? Again, I will speak to that. every round I've done, we ended up with at least some crossover, but it was spontaneous. The first castle where Alcuin and I did it, it was heavily planned. That we all were interrelated, but that takes a lot of planning. It's just logistically very hard. I found a lot of spontaneous crossovers. Like one thing that happened was at my table, there was, so what I did is I ran the same event 3 rounds in a row, the same adventure 3 rounds in a row, which really only means I had the same inciting incident and then people go vastly different directions because that's just the nature of the beast. And there was a zombie tyrannosaur in Schultz, which if you know the zombie tyrannosaurs, it's covered in zombies and it vomits zombies. And one of them was able to mind control undead. That was just a thing their character could do. And they turned and made the tyrannosaur just walk into the ocean. Like they didn't even fight it. They were like, just walk that way. Elisa Pearl was running a underwater aquatic campaign, and I was like, hey, Elisa, we just sent a zombie tyrannosaur out into the ocean, so do what you will with that. And she did have it show up in her campaign, which they were just like, what? Like, we're Tritons and Merfolk. What is this? Abomination. And that was just a fun thing. Did any of the you others do any like cool crossover stuff or anything of the like? Yes, Jasper.
Yeah, it wasn't technically a crossover because we were actually co-DMing at the time, but me and Jeremy co-DM'd a pretty epic adventure in which we literally took it like one day at a time, and like that led to some really fun stuff, which included Jeremy deciding on the first day that one of the NPCs would have like a really kind of gruff, like New York kind of accent like this. And I literally turned and looked at him and was like, why have you done this to us? Because, of course, the party immediately said, we'll take them on the adventure, the whole adventure. So that meant for 3 days, me and Jeremy rotating, having this accent that was just absolute chaos on our vocal folds. So that was, I think, a kind of a fun crossover between me and Jeremy. I'm just glad that I got to share some of the burden, at least.
Fantastic. Now this one is a little more in depth. This is from Daniel Oliveira. Are there opportunities to interact with the DMs at other tables over the course of the events? Did any of you all get to interact with? Yeah, Alcuin.
I will say that there is a lot of socializing with the other. Just because you are having a campaign, with one DM doesn't mean that you're not going to see the other DMs at the castle. There are a lot of opportunities to hang out at meals and in the library bar, and there are other activities that are organized that will have you interacting with them. And it's not just like, we DMs all sit apart at some separate table and, socialize amongst ourselves. Like you will have opportunities to interact with other DMs, which is great for me. I've gotten to meet a great many of my heroes doing this stuff. So yeah, there's definitely an opportunity for that. And everybody, I mean, of course, you always have to respect people's, boundaries and those sort of things. But there are all of the DMs I've seen at the castle have been very open about, making time to interact with the guests who are not just their own players. So
yeah, Guy.
Yeah, we actually even got to play with players and GMs alike. Those one shots that they run oftentimes don't run when the GMs are running their official sessions, and they were running, I think it was just Dungeons and Dragons as in the first edition technically, and I couldn't resist not playing in that. I mean, it was going to be crazy chaos to step back in time, and there were a bunch of players that joined in there, and we all just became players, and the DM took us on this great evening adventure. I think it was a lot of fun. And yeah, you get to interact with all of the DMs. If you go up to them and say, hey, I would love to chat to you about this idea, I don't think there's anyone who's going to go, no, leave me alone. I don't think it's going to happen.
Well, I was like, now I have to. But yes, you're right. Again, like Alcuin said, some people need their time. There is a spectrum of introversion to extroversion, but for the most part, if a person's out in public, they want to talk to you. I see you, Chris, but Caitlin had her hand up there.
So there's also opportunities to do things related to Dungeons and Dragons or just fun fantasy stuff outside of the game. So there's the banquet and then there's the ball. And I know that Travis was very often found by people at the painting table, painting minis and having nice conversations. So his social battery lasts a lot longer than mine. So you don't usually find
There's the escape room.
at the the escape room as well. So there's definitely a lot to do, and there's ample opportunity, like they said, to interact with other DMs or find Travis crouched over a painting.
Yes, Mr. Lindsay.
One of the things that I ended up doing this last time was I had a copy of Warriors of Kryn with me, and I sat down with a variety of players from all other tables and some of the dungeon masters as well, and we played this little, I want to say little, it's not really little, this is really cool war game experience at a table, and I hadn't done that previously, and now that I have, the idea of bringing a board game to run, like, say, in the evenings when people who want to just sign up and hang out with you and play a board game or whatever, is really appealing, particularly if that board game is themed along the same lines as what you're doing with your Dungeons and Dragons game. So I would encourage you to definitely reach out to all the DMs that are there while you're there, engage with them, and don't hesitate to have great conversations.
I will say there's a couple of bars and there's a courtyard, which is that background there, that courtyard. So usually at night after the games, there's organically just like bunches of people form that it's pretty easy to find folks to hang out with. Excellent. Dransky's RPG map said the only thing more immersive would be D&D in a dungeon. My room was a dungeon, so it happens actually. And one of my
Ours too.
yeah. In fact, the first time I met Caitlin and Travis, they were recording the creaking of the gates for their podcast. I just saw them in there and they were going, and I'm like, I don't know what this is, but I'm not here to kink shame. And then they told me what it was they were doing.
I had
Good doors. They're very good doors.
They were.
I had a room when I was running Spelljammer that was a wood paneled room, and it felt like a ship's cabin,
Nice.
So I think, and there are a lot of opportunities to lean into that. I think that a lot of the DMs do use that of like, I'm sure Travis and Caitlin did a lot of dungeony stuff in their dungeon.
We never saw the light of day. We never saw the light of day during ours.
I don't know if you can tell. I literally have a scar on the top of my head from hitting my head on a stone archway in the dungeon that was in there. So I have bled for D&D in a castle. Excellent. Scott Brizolara. Obviously, the main campaign is a big draw, but can you speak to any of the one-shots you're planning or running or participating in? Did any of you do one-shots in addition to your games? Yes, Jasper.
Yeah, so I got to run one-shots. This was super fun, actually, because it was very much just left up to us, what we wanted to do. These were kind of extracurricular, as it were. They were, what do you want to run? What will get people excited and stuff. And so I said, well, I'll do like a sort of customizable build your own one-shot, where everything I do is basically built around the players and what they wanted in the game. So I had like a little questionnaire sheet, which I made players that signed up fill in, which was like, what have you never seen before in a D&D campaign? What is like, have you ever played high level before? What kind of vibe do you like? Do you want blood and gore? Do you want, lots of political intrigue? Do you want like something kind of cutesy and like a little fun kind of Hobbit style adventure or something? And we had such a blast doing those. We spent the first hour building the kind of almost like lore of the world and of the group together, so that the group came in straight away kind of knowing each other, having a shared backstory, and then we literally got into it. And I was so surprised. Again, I think it speaks to what some other people have said here. It's like the absolute world-class players that come to this event, because by the end of this like 3-4 hour session, people were like screaming and shouting and out of chairs, running around the room, and this was literally just after like a 3-hour session, let alone a 24 hours of playing over over 3 days or whatever. So yeah, the one shots are an absolute blast. That's just what I did. Other people have, like B-Dev said, like run very different kinds of games. They are super fun and a great way. I think if you're like, oh, I really want to just like break out of that character for a minute and do something else, they're like just a really cool way of doing that. Definitely recommend signing up for the one shots if you can stomach more games. I mean, you know, it's not for the faint of heart. There's a lot of gaming over these 3 days, so you can pace yourself.
Yeah, you would think being like too much gaming is a strange thing. Here's one thing that I will tell you, and I tell to everybody, I tell to all the DMs and all the people, it will go so fast. It will go faster than you can possibly imagine. You will get there and you will blink and you will be on the plane. So make sure you like take a moment to like stop, breathe it in, look around the table, be like, holy crap, I'm playing D&D in a castle. Because otherwise you will play, eat, sleep, and then it's done. So yeah, breathe it in. It is a lot, but a lot in a good way. Mark Meir, friend of the show, could we get some fresh tea and coffee in the Cuthbert room, please? I guarantee you it's about 8 o'clock. Whoever's in the Cuthbert room right now in Lumley Castle needs fresh tea and coffee right now. I guarantee it. Mark Meir, one of our DMs, also just an amazing human that everybody should follow. Dan Greenfield, when does the session 0 happen for groups and how long do they typically last? Our wonderful production overlords put in a note here. Session 0's on arrival day, enough time given in the 2023 session to start playing immediately. But did any of you do pre-session 0 stuff with your people to kind of, yes, Alcuin?
I usually start working with my group about a month before the game because I feel like the time is so precious at the castle. And like some of the other folks here, I do like to really twist the knife emotionally with a lot of the stakes and the work in the backgrounds of the characters. So when I'm planning the adventure, when I'm, you know, trying to create as many moments as possible for those big cathartic things to happen, it helps to have all that prep. And also so that people can really hit the ground running. The session 0s are valuable, and I don't, at the castle are valuable, and I don't ever, it's not compulsory to do any of that sort of pre-prep, but I know that there are, you know, some DMs who prefer that to like to be able to get ahead of it, and to really have the players kind of know what they're in for. And honestly, like it's easier for me. Like I'm less nervous because I've already been talking to these people for a month and I'm just super excited to meet them and play with them. So yeah, I have a session, a month 0.
Yeah, Caitlin.
So for our next one in March, we have already started talking and texting with our players because, first of all, we run a lot of horror content. So we have to make sure that we have the horror content consent forms filled out so we can build our story without doing something that steps over someone's line, because we want people to have a good time, even if it's a terrifyingly good time. But we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to create a safe but incredibly entertaining space. On top of that, we like to use the 0 session more to introduce ourselves and introduce the players to each other so that they feel like they can just hit the ground running as soon as we actually start playing the next day. And because it's always nice for us as the DMs to have a little bit more time to read over what everybody's skills are, what it is that they have background-wise, and kind of integrate that into the story beforehand. But sometimes you really don't need it. We didn't have that the first time we went to D&D in a castle, but now that we're doing it again, we wanted to make sure that we could go on in and have this done.
The lines and veils are very important. There's someone who, again, I won't bust anybody out, brought a very elaborate mini setup of a snake temple, and the entire campaign was snake themed. And it turns out one of their players had a violent phobia against snakes. Like they just couldn't do it. And this person had to scramble and rebuild everything to take all the snake imagery out of it, like literally the night before. Yeah, so it is very important. I had somebody sit down at my table and tell me they were afraid of whistling. Like neurologically, like they can't stand it. They were like, if anybody whistles, I will scream and get under the table. Which, of course, my brain immediately was like, but of course, that is where my mind went immediately. I was like, I was very afraid because I'm like, it's a castle, like it's drafty. I'm like, is the wind gonna blow in the hall and freak you out? Turns out it was fine, but you never know, and it's important to find out. Yes, Guy.
Just on those lines, I never figured it out, although I have heard it both ways, and this is just specifically to this particular player that I say that weird phrasing. I had mayonnaise as a phobia, and that's something that should not be mentioned or included in the game at all. And just mayonnaise. And you go, is it the taste? Is it the taste? No, just mayonnaise. Just don't ever say the word mayonnaise.
That's a pretty crazy restriction. I don't know if I could run an adventure and not.
Well, you know, that was the thing. It was like, okay, scrap the adventure. We're done. We're gonna go play.
Right. I was like my Mayo Jammer campaign that I've been working on all this time. But the important thing, and I do want you all watching, like we're joking about this, but he honored it. We would honor it. You know, if you're just like, I can't stand the color blue, it's like, we'll make it work because safety is what's most important. Now, I did say we have a lot of questions, and you guys are continuing to send them in. So we're going to switch to a slight lightning round here, and here's how we're going to do it. Just one of you can answer these. So just if something is your jam, just raise your hand. And if nobody wants to jump on it, I'll just call on somebody. It's like we're back in high school. This one I'm going to answer from Sabine Tenhove. Sorry if I said that wrong. Are you looking forward to Poppet hanging out at your games again? Y'all, there's a cat named Poppet, and when she can get all through the castle, and when she blesses you, it is just it's just the best thing. I was equally excited to see the cat as I was with the ghost. Another one from Dan Greenfield. Do any of the main campaign DMs join in as players or one-shots run by other DMs? I know I did. Just raise your hand. Did you play at anybody else's table? Yeah, I definitely played at other people's tables. And so did they. Scott Brizolara, for the Americans among you, having to do 8 hours a day of DMing, was jet lag a factor? Not really for me. Yeah, I feel for me it's actually harder when I was coming back. Sorry, Jeremy, did you have a Poppet story, by the way?
Yes, I did. The very final night, or was it? The final night that I was at the castle. It was raining. Poppet happened to be walking by, and I managed. Poppet was, it was raining. Poppet was wet. I had Poppet stay in my room all night. Slept in my bed with me. I was blessed by the castle cat. And there's pictures on my Twitter, actually, if you want to go see, because I was so excited that I took a bunch of pictures of her and posted them on Twitter. But it was a magical moment, one of the most magical moments at the castle for me.
Poppet has her own Instagram, actually.
You can buy merch of Poppet.
Yeah,
Poppet merch.
That is true, which is honestly way to monetize. This was from Dan Greenfield. How often do TPKs happen? I didn't hear of any. Did you all hear of any?
No. I'm pretty close a couple times, definitely.
Yeah. One
But no
intentional
TPK.
one.
Oh, there was at least one that they died on purpose. That is true.
They died on purpose, yeah.
Yeah, but they did die on purpose. Technically, I had a TPK because the inciting incident of my game was tell me how you died. They started dead, so technically, I did. But I'm past level 3-ish. It's hard to die and stay dead in D&D anyway, though. So, excellent. Let's see. I'm scrolling. Sean Scanlon, is the use D&D Beyond at the table, or is it the old way? Basically, did you all use tech or character sheets? I was dealer's choice, but pretty much everybody chose D&D Beyond. Yeah. Do you all have any preference?
Yeah. Everybody used D&D Beyond when I was running stuff that would suit it, but for some of my things, I did things which had so many custom things, it would have taken me longer to build it. So for some of my rounds I did last year, I did use traditional character sheets, and I think a lot of the players really liked it. They're like, "Oh, I've never done it this way before," and I'm like, "Oh, you babies, you sweet babies." But I made special character sheets for them, which they got to keep as collectibles. But usually it's kind of DM's discretion, and I think people often do both. You mix it up, whatever you're most comfortable with as a player.
Yeah, Jeremy, you had something?
Yes, I was going to say it's easiest to coordinate ahead of time, probably over D&D Beyond, but I would be open to people using paper or or old school. Or sorry, paper
Excellent.
or new school rather.
Cuneiform
Paper
tablets.
or tablets.
Cuneiform,
We
exactly.
engrave them
Yeah.
upon into stone tablets.
on clay seals and the clay tablets. Yeah.
You should bring your wax tablet and stylus.
I'm like, this is not an acceptable tablet. So Brian D. Hansen said, for future sessions, is it possible to pick a surprise me ticket for the as of yet unannounced GMs in order to secure a spot, or is it better to wait for the GM to be an official ticket? To which our production overlords have said yes. Recommend to secure the spot. The November round is already sold out completely. Round 3 sold out. So we just announced today a bonus round 4. So there you go. I would get it while you can. Excellent. We have Mina Lamb. What things do you recommend players pack along for their adventures? Again, one person answer this one. Any suggestions on what they pack? Yes, Chris.
Dice.
Sure.
Bring your dice.
Yeah. A surprising number of people didn't have dice. That is true. We have a special one for Travis. If we have time, we'll come back to that one at the end here. From Margaret Parson, what are the rules for or against recording pictures, videos, sound bites for memories? I understand that tends to be a tricky situation. I know the castle had a release, and just ask permission. You know, if somebody doesn't want to be recorded, they'll tell you. And don't be a creeper is my suggestion there.
I did have people recording stuff in the sessions, but they would always ask first, and it wasn't like they were sitting there recording the whole thing. I think a lot of it is kind of like the rules at a concert. If you're the person there, like with their phone in their hand the entire time, that's kind of not okay. But you know, if you ask beforehand and they're like, just I just want to record a quick thing to post to my Instagram stories, like that's great, and everybody likes that.
Excellent. This is our last question currently. So if you have anything else, we got a few more minutes. Drop it in there. We will lightning round it here. This is from GX Barnett. What is the best level to start a short form game? I'm pretty sure we're all over the map here, but does anybody, I do level 20. So does anybody have any suggestions, Chris?
6.
What?
Yep. Chris says 6. That's
the best level.
I do
3.
I mean, besides the fact that I agree with you anyway, because you're the expert, that most classes are kind of coming to life. Like they're doing the things that make them around level 6. I agree with that assessment.
If I've got some experienced players, I'd like 9 is fun because you can go 9 and then sort of get them maybe up to like 12 because they can. And there's a lot of classes that get some really fun stuff around that time. So if they know what they're kind of, if I get a vibe that they know what they're doing, I'm like, okay, maybe we'll bump it up a little bit and punish myself a little bit because it definitely gets a little bit like that over level 9. I find.
Yep.
We generally run them really low. We run them at like level 3 because we run horror and we want them squishy,
survival
and
horror.
scared.
No more, no less.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. It is that is a very common misconception, especially to do so much level 20. Is people are like, "Ooh, that's so difficult." I'm like, no, the game's much harder at the beginning. When a goblin with an axe can crit and take your head off, and there's nothing you can do about it. The hard part's there. You're playing rocket tag as gods at the high level. Perfect. Well, here is our Travis specific question: is this is from Vosner? What is your favorite character that you have played and why?
Ooh, I rarely get to play a fiend, a shapeshifter known as the Silent One, and it's usually acting as someone else, and it's usually going to ruin your day, and it always ends its interactions with you with, "Do you seek him?" And then that's when everyone gets really upset, and the hurdy-gurdy music comes in, and then I get to smile and stab them. Or I play a dead corpse, and then they're like, "Oh, it's a corpse. Let's loot the bodies." Nope, it was the Silent One.
Excellent. We got one more that came in here. Which does anybody have any from Margaret Parson? Does anybody have any fancy stories from the Barovian Ball? I mean, Alcuin and I served looks. That happened.
Yeah. Well, we always serve looks. That's not notable. But I do remember back in 2019, Mark Meir was running a Ravenloft game, or it had elements of Ravenloft in it, and he has this Aslan the Lich. Sort of Strahd's arch enemy rival character that he does, and he likes to introduce some sort of outside the game kind of LARP context stuff for some of his players. and I was Strahd at that ball. So he had his players come and meet me, and there were these kind of other interactions. So sometimes the ball does have that stuff, especially now that we've integrated it with the sort of like Night of Trials sort of thing with a lot of extra activities, like some of the, the NPCs that people have talked about, giving out clues that we've fed them for their players. But yeah, a lot of questions people ask. There's a banquet dinner, and then there's also a ball that are on 2 different nights, and they're like, which one should I dress up for? And our answer is both, basically. I think there's definitely an opportunity to dress up as your character, either at your table or at that ball, or if you have formal wear. I've seen some incredible costumes that people have brought, and sometimes they're not even necessarily fantasy costumes. They're just really cool formal outfits or military uniforms, these kind of Napoleonic or Regency sort of things. There's a lot of fanciness, and a lot of it's brought by the players. Although there have been some DMs who dressed up pretty fancy. I remember Guy had a pretty good outfit earlier this year for one of it. He had a very beautiful cloak.
I know, Guy, I know you said you were going to say something there. So, Lex, I'm actually going to hand this to you to start wrapping us up. So, here's what I'm going to ask from everybody. So, Guy, if you want to say something about the banquet, that's cool. But, who you are and where people can find you. And if you had one last parting thing to say about D&D in a castle. And we'll go back around the horn from the way you are on my screen here. So, there you go, Guy.
All right, perfect. So, yes, from the ball, I think my experience is I'm left-handed and I have 2 right-handed feet that neither of them know how to dance, and there's a dance that you do, and I was terrified, but I had players who were Renaissance dancers and stuff, and it was an amazing experience to have been their DM and then to have them kind of saying, well, if you actually count this way, or if you do this, and I actually got I didn't get good at dancing, but I actually started to love it. I'm like, hey, this is fun. Can we do another dance? I want to learn how to do this or do that without stabbing, smacking, or hitting someone, which is what I started with. But anyway, so my name is Guy, and you can find me if you just type in how to be a great GM on socials, and specifically on YouTube. You will find me there. And content comes out weekly, and I'm currently doing a live show with Jeremy Cobb down there on Thursday night. So if you want to see us playing together, that's one of the great unions that came out of D&D in a Castle, as a matter of fact.
Excellent. Speaking of Jeremy.
Hello, my name is Jeremy Cobb. You can find me on Twitter at Jeremy Cobb1. That's Cobb with 2 B's and the number 1. I'm also on Hive, although I haven't really posted much there yet. It's mostly just a life raft. And I also am on Instagram. I don't remember what my Instagram is, but I have over 106 followers. I'm trying to get as many followers as I can before posting any actual images on Instagram or ever saying the name of it. And you can also follow 3 Black Halflings on Twitter, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram at 3. It's number 3 Black Halflings. Go check us out.
Excellent. Travis and Caitlin.
I'm Caitlin Stats.
I'm Travis Vendroff.
And we are Fool and Scholar Productions. You can find our D&D podcast Dark Dice on Twitter at D&D or at
Dark Dice Pod.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
And then also you can on Twitch .tv/Fool and Scholar if you like watching people edit D&D podcasts.
It's a lot of learning sound design if you're into that.
Yeah.
And as far as something to say about D&D in a Castle at the very end is hope to see you there.
Excellent.
Like dancing.
It is a very fancy affair. Just for the record, if the dancing seems stressful, dressing up seems stressful, you don't have to do either of those things. It's all optional, which everybody's there to have a good time. Don't let that be a barrier. It's just a fun thing. All right, Alcuin.
Hi, I'm Alcuin Gersh. You can find me on most social media under that name or under different elves. I'm in a bunch of actual play series, some of which are with B Dave, which there are VODs for. So if you want to go check those out and watch our friendship grow over the years, that's an option. I'm going to share what I'm most looking forward to, and it's actually the campaign I'm going to be running, which I'm announcing here for the first time. There are still tickets available for my table in March if you want to sign up. And I'm running, based on my background, you can see I'm running Mythic Odysseys of Theros, designed by another alum of the castle. One of the lead designers in it is James Wyatt, who I think is also performing this year, but I think his table might be sold out. So if you want to play in some of his stuff, didn't get into his table, maybe you should come and get mine. It's going to be a high level classical Greece inspired tragedy, basically about a kind of inspired by Marvel's Eternals, the idea of a sort of dysfunctional family of demigods who are kind of getting back together to try to deal with some of the baggage that the public doesn't know about. To them, they're just heroes. So yeah, if you sign up for my game in March, that's what you're going to get. And I promise I will be mean to you, but you will love it.
That is, I've never been more proud of you ever in my life than I am at this exact second. That sounds so beautiful. Yeah. All right. Chris Lindsay.
Well, online, I don't post frequently, but you can find me on Instagram at ravens_watching. That said, after this, I'm not playing anything online at this moment because I have to go back into the workshop and continue making the games that we all love. So that is my burden to bear, of course, and I will do so with great alacrity. But in the meantime, if you want to come and play with me at D&D Castle in March, it will be grim, it will be dark, it might be extra planar, and it will be a blast. Come and see me.
Excellent. And last but not least, Jasper.
Hey, so yeah, I've been Jasper William Cartwright. You can follow me on social medias at JW_Cartwright. Jeremy's already done all the plugs for Three Black Halflings, so I'll just go ahead and wrap up by saying I think D&D The Castle is a truly unique event where people work so hard to make such a unique and awesome thing happen that just doesn't happen anywhere else. So come and hang out with all of us amazing people, because they're all amazing, and I've met them and they're great. So I'm so excited, let alone the players, how excited they must be. So come join us.
Excellent. Well, right here at the very last second, we got a few more questions, and I'm a shotgun, and then we're going to close it out here. From Dan Greenfield: if a player has an idea that you as a DM really like, but it doesn't meet the current setup, like a monster not outlined as a PC playable race, do you allow it? DM's discretion. Just ask. Cameron Golden: what qualities most impress you about players and characters? Everybody was beautiful in their own way. That seems like a cop-out, but it really was true. What's your favorite classic character and why? I'm sure all of us have answered that on the social medias, and that's a whole topic in and of itself. At least for me,
the answer is Warlock.
Multi-class. You know, my main freely is a bard, paladin, warlock, sorcerer. So there you go. And I recently played with Jasper a arcane trickster, blade singer, paladin that was just absolutely disgusting. So that's I'm always making up weird combinations. But me, B. Dave Walters, all over the socials, everywhere. Again, got pro DMing and pro player content pinned at the top of my Twitter for as long as the servers stay up at B. Dave Walters. The thing I'm most excited about at the next D&D in a Castle is seeing you there. And one other face I'm looking forward to is Justin, who is one of our production overlords, who I'm going to turn it over to close us out. Thank you all for tuning in and spending this time with us today.
Wow. Thank you so much, B-Dave, for leading us through that and being our host here today at Ask Me Anything with D&D in a Castle. As B-Dave said, I'm Justin Coates, General Manager here at D&D in a Castle. It'll be my pleasure to welcome you all and to take care of you if you do come out to play at any of these fantastic tables that are available to you in March or in any future round, even if you're saving up for 2024. So it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you all each individually for taking the time to be here to be part of our Ask Me Anything. And it's great to know that you are so ready to answer the questions of D&D in a Castle from your experiences here at the Castle. And we can't wait to give you, our audience, experiences here at the Castle that are just as awesome. So thank you so much once again all. And with that, we bid you adieu. Thank you.